Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bible class. We are studying the Sermon on the Mount, and we have finished Matthew chapter 5. Wow, that took a long time, didn't it? But Sermon on the Mount has a lot in it. So now we are going to get started with Matthew chapter 6, and we're going to look at verses 1 and 2. Matthew 6, 1 and 2. So here we have it. Jesus says, "Take heed that you do not your alms before men to be seen of them. Otherwise you have no reward of your Father which is in heaven. Therefore, when thou doest thine alms, do not sound a trumpet before thee, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may have glory of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward." All right, so Jesus is now going to talk about what true religion is. And this is, well, it's different from what we saw in the previous chapter where, let's see, we start here in verse 21. You have heard that it has been said, but I say unto you. So in chapter 5, he takes a whole bunch of statements and he answers them. You've heard that it's been said, you've heard one thing, but I say unto you. So he's changing these things. Changing the things that the people have heard. Now he's going to address the mindset of the religious people, and that is they're doing their religion so that people can see them. They want all the attention on themselves. So he says, take heed, be careful, be mindful that you don't do, and we start with alms, right? We start here with almsgiving, and we're going to go to prayer here. And it's the same message, right? Don't be like the hypocrites standing and in the synagogues and street corners to be seen of men. But instead, and then down here in verse 16, when you fast, don't be like the hypocrites do. They have a sad countenance, they disfigure their faces, they appear unto men to fast. And he keeps using this statement here, verily I say unto you, they have their reward. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. So this is like a three-part sermon that Jesus puts in his sermon. So this would be the point in his sermon. If you wanted to make this one point with three subpoints, this is about true worship, or worship for the right reasons. And of course, the wrong reason is to be seen of men. So here we go. Take heed that you do not do your alms before men to be seen of them. Why does it matter why does God care whether or not we do things so that other people can see us? Well, God doesn't want us to be so concerned with our religion being visual. Now, there is a sense in which when we do something that is good, what am I trying to say? There's a sense in which when we do something is good, those good things may those good things may encourage other people to do good, to follow us. Paul, for example, routinely uses his example and says, follow me as I follow Christ. Well, he's not trying to say, look at how holy I am, and he's not trying to do that for personal reward. Instead, he's trying to have people do what is right. But here, Jesus is mentioning this motivation, and notice this. What's the purpose? What's the purpose of this act here? So here you have giving alms, helping out somebody who has a need. And what is the purpose of that? What's the purpose of helping out somebody who has a need? Who's it supposed to benefit? Well, it's supposed to benefit the person who is in need. And we as Christians are told to do that. As we have therefore, Galatians 6:10, as we have therefore opportunity, let us do good unto all men, especially those who are of the household of faith. But Jesus says, be careful that you don't do these things before men to be seen of them. What's the purpose of the hypocrites here? What is their purpose for doing alms? Well, their purpose is not to help other people. Their purpose is not to be pleasing to God. It is, in fact, to boost their own ego. And the Bible takes a lot of issue with pride, doesn't it? Pride goeth before a fall, and a haughty spirit before destruction. That's one of the Proverbs here. Look at this. Pride, fall. Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Proverbs 6:18 says. So, we do not want to be. Also, check this out. Sometimes it's great to search for things, because here's a point that we might make about pride. Elders. If a man desires the office of a bishop, that's an elder. Elders are to have all of these qualifications here. Wine, no striker, not greedy, etc., etc. Then here, not a novice, lest being lifted up with pride, he fall into the condemnation of the devil. So here is a religious office, the office of elder. And one of the dangers of having that office is being affected by pride and allowing that pride to lift you up and fall into condemnation. So as Christians, we need to be careful. We need to be careful that we don't allow pride to get in our way, because eventually that leads to condemnation. If we are lifted up with pride, we are cast down by God. So we have here in Matthew 6:1, Jesus is preemptively attacking pride here. Don't do your alms before men. Well, this isn't preemptive. Well, is it? Yeah, it is preemptive, because he's preventing people from allowing their religion to boost their pride and to boost their ego. When you do religion, it should not be so that other people could look at you and say, look how holy that person is. Don't do your alms before men to be seen of them. Now, look at this. Otherwise, you have no reward of your Father which is in heaven. God's not going to reward you. Why would he? God rewards us for when we serve him, doesn't he? He rewards us for when we dedicate ourselves for him. I mentioned in my sermon this morning, we talked about the widow that gave those 2 mites, and Jesus said, well, she gave a lot more than the rich people that gave. And one of the points that I made was from 2 Corinthians chapter 8, talking about the Macedonians, and it said the Macedonians did more than Paul expected. They gave not as we hope, it says, but first they gave their own selves. And really, this is what makes religion and worship and service, the service that we yield to God, this is what makes that acceptable to him. So here you have an act of service, doing alms, giving to the poor and to the needy. And that, the purpose of that is to show dedication to God. We're doing this because this is how we bring the character of Christ to the world. And look at these look at these acts of worship, doing alms, praying. Then we had down here fasting. These acts of religious service are not about us. In fact, they're about the denial of self, aren't they? When you give alms to somebody, you're taking the possessions that you own and you're giving them to somebody else. So this act of service to God is, well, it's a way that we can deny ourselves. And here, the hypocrites were taking that act of self-denial and service to God as a way of showing dedication to God and turning it around and making it about being dedicated to themselves. So they do alms and they let everybody know what that is. Imagine going and giving alms to somebody who has need, giving something to somebody who is in dire straits, and before you give it, you get that trumpet and sound of the trumpet. Everybody listen, look at the thing that I'm going to do. Man, just saying it like that gives me a bad taste in my mouth. But this is what the religious people would do. When you do your alms, do not sound a trumpet before thee, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and the streets. And here's the purpose again. In verse 1, don't do your alms before men to be seen of them. Here, the purpose is again stated that they may have glory of men. So it's not just that you'll be recognized, but they're doing these things for recognition that men will give them glory. And when we serve God so that men will give us glory, it's not really serving God, is it? It's self-serving. And Jesus says you can't be a disciple see if I can find this. You can't be a disciple without doing this. Look at this. We have 3, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. And these are probably parallel passages in Mark and Luke. And look at what this is right after. From that time, Jesus began to show to his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem, suffer many things of the elders, chief priests, scribes, and be killed and raised again. Peter took him and began to rebuke him, saying, "Be it far from thee, Lord, this shall not be unto thee." He turned and said, "Get thee behind me, adversary." He's not calling him physical Satan. He's saying you're an adversary. Maybe following the will of Satan at best. "But thou art an offense to me, for thou savorest not the things that be of God, but those that be of men." Then he said to his disciples, "If any man will come after me, that is, be my disciple, let him deny myself, take up his cross, and follow me. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, and whosoever will lose his life for my sake shall find it. For what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul?" So when we do our religion to get the glory of men, what are we gaining? Well, glory of men is something that is valuable. Influence, recognition, power, these things are valuable. And what Jesus says here in Matthew 16:26 applies. What are you profited if you gain the whole world and lose his own soul? What will you give in exchange for your soul? I guess the reverse question to that is, what would you exchange your soul for? Or that's not the reverse question. That is the question. The what will you give in exchange for your soul? What will you trade your soul for? What will you take your soul and give it away for? So is it worth the recognition, the glory, the honor, the people, you turning people's heads and they say, look at how religious this person is. And you know what? The answer is no. Be careful that we don't do this. Don't sound a trumpet. And once again, and this is the first time Jesus says, verily or truly, I say to you, they have their reward. That's an actual, it's actually really sad statement, because here you have people in the synagogues, and these are, we understand these people to be the religious elite. He's talking about the hypocrites. He's definitely calling out the scribes and the Pharisees. When he says they have their reward, you're not going to get a reward from your Father in heaven, but you're going to get exactly what you want. I just thought, what reward are we seeking? That would make a good sermon. Maybe I'll preach that. Maybe I'll preach that after a little while. What reward do we seek? Because we can get that reward. And it's amazing what kind of motivation that people have in this world. And the devil has the power to give these things. And he does give them. Here, I'll give you recognition. I'll give you glory. I'll give you clout with other people. And people sell their souls for these things, and they get them, only to realize when it comes to the end of their lives, these things aren't worth it. It's just not worth trading the reward from your Father, from God who is in heaven. It's not worth trading that reward for anything that we can have on this earth. All right, we'll pick up next time with verses 3 and 4 and what we should do. And until then, I'm so glad that you have participated in Bible class. I'm glad you're here, and I hope you're learning something. I sure am, studying through this wonderful, wonderful sermon. Until we meet again, I hope you are blessed and you have a wonderful day.